Welcome to my library, dear guest. My name is Ko, and I will be your storyteller. Today I will be reading 2 horror stories to you. What a surprise, I know. I really should come up with something else for these intros, but we will worry about that another time. For now, we shall get to the first story of the day. Story number 1. How the entire party collectively ruined a campaign in the first session. By the author, Zesty Clothes Royal 7166. This happened back in 2014. The roommate of one of my college classmates wanted to DM a game of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. So, we made our characters, and then got together for our first session. The group consisted of Tim, the DM, Tim's roommate, playing a ranger-type character, myself, playing a ninja character, my roommate, playing a pyromancer wizard character, and Tim's friend, playing a barbarian character. The group arrived in a port city, and all met as we got off the ship we had traveled on. Right out of the gate, we all begin to piss off the city guards. This quickly results in combat. We manage to hold our own against the guards, and eventually draw the attention of a big bad general character. Tim described this general as very intimidating. Definitely someone you do not want to mess with. However, us being a bunch of shit disturbers immediately challenge him to a fight. We win the fight surprisingly easily by decapitating the general's horse, causing him to flee. The rest of the guards followed suit. With combat over, we had an entire port to explore. My ninja character, named Shenanigans for good reason, became instant best friends with the ranger character. We did the clasp of friends before immediately running off to the nearby barracks. I not so stealthily tumble inside, all while carrying the general's horse's head. A sleeping guard who managed to sleep through my rather noisy entrance was chosen as my victim. I placed the horse head in bed with him before fleeing the scene. Meanwhile, the pyromancer wizard, who was chaotic evil by the way, just decided to lob a firebolt into the barracks, and the building goes up in flames. The guard is woken up by the smoke, sees the horse head, understandably freaks out and tries to flee, but finds that he has been locked inside. Yeah, I'm not proud of how that whole scenario ended. Moving on, the party arrived at a tavern looking for information. We get the info we need, but as we were leaving, more guards showed up. The pyromancer wizard immediately decides to shoot a firebolt at the countless bottles of alcohol at the bar. And once again, the building goes up in flames. We flee back to the docks where we planned to commandeer a ship. I was the first to board the ship, only to find the big bad general waiting for us. I attempted to reason with him, but rolled a nat 1. He rolled for counter-diplomacy, and also rolled a nat 1. We kinda just stood there after both screaming gibberish at one another. The rest of the party arrives and combat begins. Our barbarian, who had spiked gauntlets for weapons, attacked the general. For some context, we did a thing where if you roll a natural 20 to hit, you roll the d20 again to see if it's a double crit. The barbarian rolled 3 natural 20s in a row. After rolling for damage, the DM describes his big bad general character basically exploding after getting punched. After claiming the ship, we immediately use its cannons and open fire on the city, pretty much leveling it in the process. With a very disappointed tone in his voice, the DM says, "Well, I guess that's the end of the campaign. That city was supposed to be the main hub you'd come back to a bunch. Oops. Since then, I've tried my best not to be a murder hobo. Sorry, Tim, I actually feel bad for derailing that campaign completely." TLDR. A bunch of murder hobo party members, myself included, cripple a city's guard population before leveling the city entirely. Poor Tim, I'm pretty sure you didn't sign up for this. But yeah, what more can you say than don't be a murder hobo if the DM doesn't explicitly allow murder hobos? I'm quite surprised he even lasted for the entire session. I probably would have thrown in the towel when the wizard set fire to the barracks at the latest. But hey, everybody walks away with a lesson learned and admitting to their mistakes. Except for this poor DM who was just trying to run a game. I hope it worked out for him another time. Moving on. Story number 2. The Pathfinder game that ended a marriage. By the author, 2 Steps from Yikes. This is a story from several years ago, and I still think about it often. The short backstory was that my mother was getting married to this guy I'll name George. They were getting married at Universal Studios in Florida, and then the plan was to go on a cruise to the Bahamas after, to celebrate. And my birthday would also occur during the cruise, so it was basically her birthday present to me, to fly out, since I was living with my dad, and take me on the cruise. While relaxing in the hotel suite after doing wedding stuff, like stuffing thank you cards for gifts, my older brother, I'll name Joey, spoke up and was like, "Hey, to pass the time, how about I run a quick Pathfinder one-shot for you guys?" Me and George were interested. I've played a ton of D&D, but never really played Pathfinder, and George played D&D in high school in like the 80s. We spent the day reading through the core rulebook and looking up races and lore online. I ended up making a fetchling rogue because I was like, ooh, shadow person rogue, so cool. I was like 13, cut me some slack, okay? Lol. George made some kind of melee bruiser. I can't really remember the details, just that his solution to most things were, I hit it. The one-shot was going decently well until we got in this encounter where we were supposed to escort some carriage through town, and we were assailed by enemies. I tried to defend myself and do what I could, but George for some reason refused to leave the carriage and effectively refused to fight on front line. This would have been fine if he had any ranged attacks, but he didn't, so he just squatted on the carriage going, "I ready to attack anyone who gets near." Lo and behold, I end up dying, and he runs off overwhelmed and gets finished off. I react pretty negatively, and since I saw he did a dumb play, and me being a 13-year-old smartass, I just yell at George, "You dumbass, what the fuck was that shit?" George just responds, "Do not speak to me in that tone." Since I'm pissed, since I just died, and I admit I was a bit of a dick here, I responded, "This is the tone a fucking dumbass deserves." And George goes, "Do not speak to your father like that." And without thinking, I just blurted out, "You're not my dad." And before I could even realize what happened, George smacked me across my face. My face hurt, my ears were ringing. All I saw and comprehended was a look of pure fury on my older brother's face, and then a full-blown fight broke out. My older brother was trying to beat the ever-living shit out of George. I wasn't fully there, so I was kind of absent-mindedly on autopilot and went to hold my older brother back. That's when our mom came back with groceries. She saw the fight, she saw the red welt and beginning bruise on my face, and demanded to know what the heck had happened. My older brother told her what happened, and for the rest of the night, all me and my brother heard from the master bedroom was arguing. The next day, the day we were supposed to go onto the cruise ship, my mom woke us up and told us that my older brother was going to be sharing the cabin suite on the ship with me, and that she and George were going to each take the single cabins that were meant for me and my brother. We didn't really interact or see George the entire cruise. I ran into him once at the 24-hour pub when I went to get some late-night chicken wings. It was really awkward, and he was drinking himself silly at the bar. After the cruise night ended, I went back home, and a few months later, I found out that my mom and George had separated. TLDR: Mom marries new guy who did some questionable plays in Pathfinder one-shot. Me, being a 13-year-old, react negatively at his perceived stupidity. George hits me and infuriates my older brother and mom. Mom and George fight, and shortly after separate. I mean, deserved? It's good the guy showed his true colors before marrying the author's mom, but come on. Don't hit your kids, guys. I always think some things are just obvious, but then there are dumbasses who need to be reminded. Got nothing else on this, to be honest. I think it's pretty clear that George got what he deserved. Good thing the marriage didn't go through, and I wish your family all the best. Or rather, hope all the best has happened, considering this was years ago. Now, let us move on to the last segment for today. The Exhibition Journal, where I display the fan art you make for this channel. And today's fan art is a little bit different, because you have been listening to it in the background this whole time. That's right, Àmbair's Lair made a cover of Welcome as fan art, and not going to lie, this just hits different on another level. I make these background tracks myself, and I'm not the most confident in my abilities to make music, but to see someone like it enough to actually make such a beautiful cover of it is just... thank you. I mean it. Thank you so much for your fan cover, Àmbair's Lair. Their socials are displayed on screen as well as linked in the description below, which is where you will also find the link to my Discord server to submit your own fan art to if you so desire. Or just to chat, really. And in case you do not have Discord, feel free to send it to the email linked in my About section. That's it for today's stories. I hope you enjoyed your stay and that I will see you again soon. For there are always more stories to be shared.